Good morning, because I'm here in San Francisco. I am Jerry Roth, the president of UIA. It is a great honor and delight for me to be here today introducing this webinar on blockchain and the implications and applications for lawyers. You know, we've been very active at UIA during this difficult COVID period and focusing on issues that can be of particular importance to the world's lawyers during this period. I just was at a ceremony in which we signed a resolution regarding the unidroit principles, which we believe fits in that category. But it was interesting to me to then jump onto this, where we have this fascinating topic of blockchain, so important with so many possibilities in this period. We also have two wonderful speakers today, Anthony TU-SEKINE from SEWARD and KISSEL, a US law firm, with whom we work at the UIA, really happy to have him here and an expert in blockchain, as well as ALBOU, who is with DOCUCERT, one of our longstanding partners at UIA. And Eric will be talking a little bit about DOCUCERT, but a wonderful company and works in this area and field and provides very useful service for lawyers. So we are thrilled to have both Anthony and Eric today. I believe that Anthony will be speaking first. I will be clicking off my video and my sound so as not to be a distraction during the presentation, but I do want to thank everybody for being here. You know, we couldn't function and succeed as we do in bringing together the world's lawyers if we didn't have all of you as participants here. And we very much appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to UIA or to me personally. And with that, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. And I turn over the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to meet you. My name is Anthony TU-SEKINE. I'm a lawyer at SEWARD and KISSEL. I'm the head of our blockchain and cryptocurrency group, and we have been active in the blockchain space for close to 6 years now, which is not very long in the grand scheme of things, but it is, you know, quite long in the world of blockchain. So Eric and I have a presentation for you today. We were trying to, whoops, let me see. Sorry, I have a technical problem here. There we go. Eric and I are preparing a short presentation for you today on blockchain. It is meant to be, at least on my level, somewhat introductory. And then Eric will go into a lot of details, particularly on what DOCUCERT can provide. So one thing I wanted to mention just at the beginning, if you have any questions, the Zoom has a Q&A function. If you just put your mouse on the bottom of the screen, you should see something pops up that says Q&A. You can type your question in there, and then, you know, Eric or I will address it. You know, our presentations each about like 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes long, and then we've reserved the remainder of the time for questions. So again, this is meant to be somewhat introductory. So if you are already in the field of blockchain, please forgive me. One thing I wanted to say is that, you know, we are always looking for contacts internationally. So if you are in the field of blockchain, you know, please reach out to me. I would love to, you know, make contacts and see if there is anything we can do to exchange information, etc. So, all right. So first of all, the question is, what is blockchain? You know, people talk a lot about blockchain, but most people really still a little bit confused about what it means. At its most basic level, blockchain is a way to store data, particularly transaction data. It is something that is, you know, a blockchain really popped up onto the world scene in 2008 after the publication of the white paper that introduced Bitcoin. But actually, it's decades older. It goes back to the 70s, as does the concept of encrypted private currency, which also goes back to the 70s. But the Bitcoin paper was the first one that really put those two together and made it, you know, very public. So blockchain stores data digitally in sequential chain of blocks. So each block has its own set of data. and that particular block is encrypted. And these blocks are linked with the oldest block first and the newest block last. So if you look at the little schematic that I have here, you can see on the top there's a blockchain, and there's 5 different blocks from A to E. And so each block really has three components, so to speak. The first one is the biggest component, which is the actual data in that block. The other 2 components are really like handles. That is, how the blocks connect to each other. So each block has recognizes the name of the previous block, and it also creates its own name, so to speak. And if you look at my chain here, if you look at the block B, has the information that the previous block is supposed to be called A, and the next, and it itself is called B. And so the next block over, block C, again has the information that the previous block was supposed to be called B, and itself is called C, etc. So you can see how the chain works. One of the nice, elegant tricks about this, about the blockchain is that the name of the blockchain, that is the name of block B here, is created by running the information inside the block through an encryption system, and it comes up with this new name, which is also called a hash. And what happens is that if a hacker goes ahead and changes the name of the block, and if you look at the bottom chain here, the block C, in Charlie, somebody changed that information, and now that information looks different. Now, if you run the information in a block through the encryption system, you come up with a different name. It's now called X, and the chain will break apart because the block D is looking for block C to hold its hand, but it has no block C there because that previous block has changed. So if somebody goes in and changes the transaction data, you actually break the chain. So that is one of the elegant methods of blockchain and how it makes the information in blockchain secure. There are a couple of other safeguards that blockchain has. Number one is that there's many different types of blockchain. Let me see if I can move the screen forward here. Here we go. There's many different types of blockchain. So there are blockchain that are permissionless and blockchain that are permissioned. So a permissionless blockchain means that it's a blockchain that anybody can participate in. Anybody can be a recording node. You do not need anything except the right computer capacity to participate in. One of those, the most public of that is Bitcoin, right? If you today wanted to, you could become one of the Bitcoin nodes, that keeps the entire record of all of Bitcoin transactions. And you could also be a miner. That is, you could create you could be one of those entities that creates the new blocks. A permission blockchain is the exact opposite. That is, the only people who are allowed to do certain things in a blockchain are people who have permission. So if you were, let's say, for instance, you are a bank and you create your own blockchain, you obviously do not want other people to go ahead and be able to make entries on the bank accounts. Only in that particular case, if you were a bank that uses blockchain to maintain its records, it would be permission blockchain, where only people that you give permission to can make changes. The next one is it's something called decentralized versus curated. And that's decentralization is one of the big, I think, strong developments of blockchain, and one of the reasons why it's been very popular with a certain segment of the population. That is, a decentralized blockchain is really not controlled by anybody. What does that mean? Let's talk about bank accounts. If you have a bank account, the person who maintains all information in your bank account is your bank. That's your trusted record keeper. But if you have if the bank makes a mistake, the only way you can appeal to it is you can go to the bank and try to show that it has a mistake. But if the bank refuses to accept that mistake, you may have a problem because the bank is the official record keeper. And the same thing goes for governments, et cetera, et cetera. In a decentralized system, you don't have one record keeper, you have multiple record keepers. Again, Bitcoin is a great example. In Bitcoin or Ethereum, which is another a big public blockchain, Ethereum has 18,000 record keepers. And so that means that, you know, if one person is wrong, there are 17,999 or whoever many there are now, you know, that have the right information. And so, you know, you don't have to have one record keeper whom you trust. There's actually, the idea is that you have a number of record keepers, and whatever the information that is kept by at least the majority of record keepers is the correct one. So that's a very attractive feature to in a lot of systems, particularly if you have a system where you have actors that cannot trust each other. A curated blockchain is again the exact opposite. A curated blockchain is where you have one person or entity or group of entities that is allowed to basically control the blockchain, make changes, and so on. And again, the curated system is something that is, you know, probably more appropriate for enterprise solutions that we'll talk about in a minute. So, and those are just some of the distinctions of blockchain. There's many different types of blockchain, and the application for which you use the blockchain actually is the one really that determines the type of blockchain that you need to use. Right, moving on to the next screen here. Give me a second. There you go. So when you talk about blockchain, really nowadays there's three big, what I call buckets of types of blockchain. The first one is cryptocurrencies, right? When I tell people that I work in blockchain, everybody asks me about whether they should buy Bitcoin or Ether or some of the other coins. But that really, the cryptocurrency is just one application of blockchain, and it happens to be, you know, the most popular and right now the most speculative one. So that's really what's in the newspapers all the time, what people talk about all the time. But as we say in the United States, that is the tail wagging the dog. That is right now, that is a smaller part, and right now it gets all of the attention. But it is really, I think, in the long run, not really the most important application of blockchain. The second one is a system of tokens. That is, there are a lot of platforms that are springing up now that are using blockchain that use tokens as a form of lubricant for the system. So for instance, it is, you know, in order to, it would be a platform where you can do something, and in order to do something on a platform, let's say, for instance, it's a platform that allows you to do websites. In order to use that platform to build a website, you have to buy a token from the company, and then you use that token to basically pay for using that. So that's one way of using a token in a tokenized system. Another way would be, you know, tokens can be used to reward people who do something. Again, let's say, for instance, you have a media platform where people write articles. For instance, there's a platform called Medium. People go on Medium and they write articles and you post it for free. And then if people like your article, they can, instead of just giving you a thumbs up, they can actually give you, you know, one of the Medium tokens. And then you can use those tokens to either reward somebody else, or to use more of the Medium system, or to pay your subscription fee on Medium. Or in some respects, in some cases, you can actually take the token and sell it on the secondary market and basically make money. The biggest bucket, though, is enterprise solutions. That is where you use blockchain as a technological convenience, not because you want to create a token, not because you want to have a cryptocurrency, but because, again, you want to use it because it is a fantastic way to use, sort, and store data. So to give you an example of how this is being used, for instance, it is used already in the supply chain. That is, suppliers and users are tracking items in their blockchain. So give you an example. About 2 or 3 years ago in the United States, we had some romaine lettuce which was contaminated. A lot of people got sick. The problem was that nobody knew exactly where the romaine lettuce that was tainted came from. So we actually destroyed every head of romaine lettuce in the United States for like 2 or 3 months, which was like, you know, billions of heads of romaine lettuce. Walmart, the large American retailer, in response to that, invested in a blockchain system, and they've run a pilot program where they can now tag every piece of produce that they have is tagged on a blockchain and can be followed. So they did a test, and they were able to find the source of a contaminated batch within 3 minutes, which if you think about the large worldwide distribution of Walmart, that's just an incredible amount of speed. Another example of how blockchain can be used, and again, this shows you how the application of blockchain can be very important in choosing the right thing. Maersk, the Maersk container shipment system has put together a blockchain to help track shipping containers, and they have a number of actors that have agreed to participate, including ports in China, customs authorities throughout the world. And so now when you are, let's say you're a shipper in China and you put your wares on a container in China, there's a blockchain entrance when it goes onto the truck, and it's the trucking company that makes that entry. And then there's another entry when it comes to the shipping port in China. There's another entry when the ship accepts it. There's another entry when it clears customs in New Jersey. And the only people who can make these entries are the various people. So the only person that can, or entity that can verify that the container has passed customs in New Jersey is the New Jersey Port Authority. The reason why this works great is because at all stages along the line, the producer in China can see where the container is and where that's cleared it. So you can make the information visible, but you can restrict who can make the changes. So what does this mean for us as lawyers? Oh, sorry, slide, there we go. A blockchain really is new technology. I'm old enough to remember when the internet came along, when the dot-com boom, and then for a while we had questions about what does it mean when you sell a security on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. So whenever a new technology breaks in, there's a number of questions that we as lawyers need to address, aside from the technological questions, right? So first of all is recognition. As I said, blockchain is a great way to store information. I have a client who has put together a platform that puts contracts on blockchain, in some respects, a little bit similar to what Eric will talk to you about in a minute. But really, it is more of where each clause in a contract is represented by blockchain. It becomes immutable. That means it cannot be changed, etc. But one of the questions is, if you have a contract that's completely on blockchain, is that enforceable? There are some jurisdictions where you have to produce an original for the courts to recognize it. Is something that is on a blockchain deemed to be original? Is it signed? Again, there's some jurisdictions in which a signature will have to be in some kind of physical form. So those are questions that we as lawyers will have to struggle with. Next thing is like classification. When you have a blockchain asset, what kind of asset is it? Is it, for instance, particularly in the token world in the United States, if you sell tokens in a way that makes an investment, the token itself becomes a security, even if it's not something else, and is subject to all of the securities laws. If you have if you have a cryptocurrency token like Bitcoin or so, what is it from a tax perspective? In the United States, it's property, which means that every time you use a Bitcoin to pay for something, you have to, basically, account for your taxes, etc. Those kind of questions. Other questions that pop up is interpretation. So there are blockchain has a neat feature which is known as a smart contract. That is, you can, in the blockchain itself, you can embed a number of actions that will take place if something happens. So for example, you could put a bond that pays interest every quarter. If you issue that on blockchain, you can actually put into the blockchain itself a feature that makes sure that every quarter, you know, the blockchain bond itself just automatically spits out the dividend. So, you know, in this case, what would happen is that the issuer would put money into a bank account, and then, you know, every quarter the money would come out automatically. So some of those smart contracts, you know, we have a joke in the United States that they're neither smart nor contracts, because right now they're still pretty simple. And it's a question of whether some of these things are enforceable. Again, you know, certain jurisdictions have certain requirements. So that's one of those questions that they will come up with. Other issues they come up with, like, if, for instance, in the United States, under common law, we have a contract interpretation rule known as mutual or unilateral mistake. That is, if you have a contract and the contract says that I'm going to sell you a yacht, and it was meant to be $150 million, but we forget the million, it just says $150. That clearly was a mistake, you know, and so parties can try to ask a court to change that contract because of the concept of a mistake. Well, there is a case in Singapore where there was a mistake in an automatic a blockchain smart contract where somebody was exchanging one currency for another, and they made a mistake, and it was off by a factor of thousands. So rather than getting, you know, $100 or $1,000, they got $1. And then they went to the court and said, "This is clearly a mistake. We would like to undo that." And the court said, "No, because a mistake actually means that, you know, it has to have some cognitive function behind it. That is, you need to understand what you're doing." And it was an automated contract between two machines, so there can be no mistake. The machines did not make a mistake. So and they refused to use that, to set that aside. So it is issues like that that I think, you know, will challenge us. The last thing, and if I can move the slide, you can see it, but the last thing is, for instance, privacy. If you have something on a public blockchain, again, like use Bitcoin, and that information is public, and you have, like in the United States, no right to privacy. We just had a case in the United States where the FBI used Bitcoin transactions to follow somebody who was buying child pornography, and you know, found him and used the evidence of the Bitcoin transactions to convict him in court. That person was arguing that his, you know, Bitcoin transactions were private. The FBI did not get a proper warrant, and therefore, you know, the case should be thrown out. But the Fifth Circuit of Appeals in the United States ruled that no, because, you know, it's a public blockchain, you have no right to privacy. So again, that's a U.S.-centric case, obviously, but it may be of interest in other cases. You know, blockchain transactions are usually immutable, as it cannot be changed. How does this work with GDPR? If under GDPR, at least in my understanding, you have the right to have your transactions or your digital footprint erased under certain circumstances. So, you know, if you have an immutable record, you obviously can't erase it. So these are the challenges that will face lawyers. Thanks, Eric. I already went a little bit over my time, so I will pass it off to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, okay, so thanks. Hello, everybody. So I'm Eric ALBOU. Okay, I'm an ex-bailiff, working in bailiff for 20 years, and particularly in counterfeiting action. And I was working for a brand fashion and very luxury fashion brand for their own protection for IP and for copyright. So that's why I'm introducing into blockchain 3 years ago, not 6 years as Anthony, but 3 years ago. And I developed with my company a platform for that. And since 3 years now, we receive more than 105,000 hash code from any luxury brand for their own copyright all over the world. So that's why we create DOCUCERT with my partner, Noura. So she's with us today. So hello, Noura. And so I would like to present you case, because I know for everybody, as Anthony said, it's when people talk about blockchain, nobody knows what is it exactly, because
blockchain and lawyer,
the cloud. So it's sorry for that. Colette. Okay, after Colette, I think in 5 minutes. And I would like to introduce you some case, because as you know, in blockchain, it's nobody knows exactly what is it. So since 3 years, I work as a lawyer for bailiff lawyer for a recorder register for copyright, and also I help lawyers for for example, for protecting their own NDA or contract with their own client. And also we develop a digital signature as a blockchain. So it's similar to DocuSign, as everybody knows, but it's not DocuSign. It's a new way for signature because it's including blockchain. So I mean, we're including all the process signature and the document. So after 3 or 4 years, nobody can change it because, as I will show you now, when you hash something into the blockchain, and I think it is the most important that your client must understand, we don't send any file into the blockchain. We send only the hash code. So it's like if you take a part of your blood and you send for a DNA process, it's exactly the same as the blockchain. We send only the DNA of the files and not the files. So nobody knows except you and your client what is in the file, what is in the files. So it's secure because it's a suite of 26 to 35 number letters, and so nobody knows what is it. So that's why it's very interesting for security and for confidentiality also. So we developed with UIA in January very attractive things for lawyers because we offer our platform in a wide brand. So you can use it and explain to your client how it works by yourself, and you don't have you can offer them blockchain access for their own client document or any kind of documents they want to protect. So maybe I think it's better if you want to see what is the case. And I think my English is not so good, so I prefer to show the videos. And after, if you have some question, and I can show you also after in 2 minutes how the platform works. So Colette, can you launch the animation, please? If you listen to me.
Chain and lawyer?
Yeah.
Blockchain and lawyer? What is blockchain? To put it simply, blockchain is a digital concept to store hash code of a date in a decentralized ledger that is impervious to hacking, immutable, and anonymous. Hash code A is put into blocks. So imagine blocks of digital data and are chained together. When a block of data is chained to other blocks, its data can never be changed again. It will be publicly available to anyone who wants to see it ever again, in exactly the way it was once added to the blockchain. Historically, the blockchain, created by a person or group of people known by the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. It's a mathematical and cryptography method created in 1979. Our platform receives files from any client all over the world. We send the hash code of the file into the Bitcoin blockchain. After 30 minutes to 3 hours, the process is done, and we provide you on-demand 24/24 a blockchain certificate. DOCUCERT.io offers a secure platform in SaaS mode, means you need only a single browser to use it. We use a French company for hosting. This platform is branded with all your color templates, logo, and name. In minutes, you can open a client account. Your client can access with login and password in 2 clicks and upload any files: Office, PDF, zip, images, video, 3D into the platform. The process is very easy, and after blockchain process, we will get a blockchain certificate from a French bailiff. As a lawyer, how you can handle blockchain for you and your client. Client and the selected employees will have a single account to manage your file registrations into your account. You can access online 24/7 your directory of files and retrieve your time-stamped registrations. You have a client in the fashion industry. He needs to protect creation and models against counterfeiters anywhere in the world. In a few minutes with our platform, he could be protected. You have a client in building construction business. He needs a proof at minute. He can use our free app, SEKINE, iOS and Android, and register in seconds, documents to sign, pictures or videos with geolocation, and get blockchain certificate on demand. You have a client in advertising, publicity. Your client wishes to protect his work when a recommendation is made for a client company. He can protect it in seconds before the meeting. You have a client in science and research industry. Your client needs to begin the patent process, but it takes time. In the meantime, the patent will deliver is not under protection. He could upload any process of his future patent and give it a certain date. You have a client in musical and entertainment industry. They can protect in minutes lyrics, sound, music, videos, pictures, storyboard, script. You have a client in the education industry. They can protect in minutes lesson programs, university diplomas, thesis. As a lawyer, you need to register, sign, and give a certain date to any NDA, shareholder pact, special convention, or any document you want to give a certain date and infallibility. Where the blockchain is admitted as a legal proof in 2020, in continental China, 18 USA states including New York, California, Nevada, in Europe, Italy, Russia, Germany, Lithuania, and in Africa, Ghana. With only the blockchain certificate, you can file a suit to any company or people. We are convinced that in a few years, blockchain certificate will be admitted in most countries. Pending, we also provide you a very simple solution for other countries. You can ask for a report of a French bailiff by a simple click. Your client can be protected in 170 countries, including France, UK, India, Brazil, Mexico, Netherlands, Denmark, for 70 years. Berne Convention.
Okay. So it explains exactly what case you have. Colette, I know you were here. Can I just share my screen and people can see it? If I want to show how it works in 2 minutes, how to protect you in 2 minutes?
Yes, sure. Let me just give you the control.
Okay. I think I got the control.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a test. This is a platform test. You can see it. So we offer in French and English, but also in Arabic and in Spanish. Okay. And if we have other clients all over the world, we can develop in any kind of any language. So how it works? So it's very easy. So I'll show you that because I don't know if I can do it. Okay. So here. Okay, so for example, we want to protect some files from the UIA. Okay, you can just put a Dragon file or just choose any kind of files. Or it can be of pictures, it can be a PDF or video or anything you want. Okay, except exe.exe because it's an executive, so it's not good. But all the other files are okay, and it's maximum 2 GB per file. But it's okay. So you just upload it. So now we just create, as you can see, we create the hash code, and now you protect them. So after 3 hours, after the blockchain process that you can see on the watch on the animation, so you will have a certificate delivered. So we cannot wait 3 hours. So I can go directly, for example, here. Okay. So you see it's green. So it's process. So into the process now we have the timestamp of our own platform, and this is the hash code. As you can see, hash code, it's nobody will know what is this beautiful girl. It is this number, and also this is a timestamp of the blockchain. So also what we can do, we can just get a certificate, and we provide the certificate in 12 different languages, as a German, Arabic, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, Russian, English, Hindi, Dutch, and Chinese. So if we have other people we want more, we can add more. So I can just select it, for example, Russian, English, and Arabic, for example. So we just ask for a certificate. So we download it. So as you can see, it's very easy. So just a 1-2 click. And after, so I will just, I think I need to share screen differently on Zoom, but I will show you. Okay, okay, let me check out it, if I can show you that. Where is it? Okay, I found it. Okay, so you can see the certificate. So this one, for example, is in Arabic. We have the same in English. And we have the same in, what is it? This one, it's French, yeah. And this is in Russian. So automatically you get it. Also, we have a possibility, also to use our signature by blockchain. So I cannot show you because it's take a while. So you just add, as you can see, on DocuSign, and it's very easy. And also, what the big difference is, we blockchain all the process. So I mean, if you have any issues on the contract, you can go directly to a judge and you can see the log, and the log is in English, not in a computing translation. So it's very easy to understand. And because we use certificate, so it's easy and nobody can change it. As my partners, Anthony can say, will say, with a blockchain, nobody can change anything, because when it's blocked, it's forever. Okay, one last thing I want to show you, it's how you can do, and you can be sure that the files you blockchain 2 years ago, or you can see, and you can say and reveal into the blockchain. So into the blockchain, there is like a search engine, like in Google, and inside, when you put the hash code of any files and you got the files, so you can just put the files and just launch a verification, and you can see you have the static files and with the date and the hash code. So you just have to compare the original files with the certificate and with the search engine, and when it's matched, it is exactly the same files as you upload 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Okay, so I'm just okay. So if you have any question, Anthony, if you have any question or something.
One thing that you mentioned when we discussed this, Eric, that I'm not sure if you highlighted it as, that is, you were telling me that you don't use any American servers, right? All of this information is stored outside the United States.
Exactly. So, okay, I'm sorry for US people who are with us, but you know, you have things called the Patriot Act and Cloud Act in US. And if we use in Europe, or Google or any US companies, it's permitted by the Patriot Act and Cloud Act to reveal any files into the server. So that's why, because I work with luxury brands and they don't want to be intercepting files by government in US, so we use only European and French server. So this server is very secure because we use a server of the Belief International Chambers. So it's not a commercial company, it's an association company. So we don't use any big data, or we don't, when you put your files into this server, nobody can take it and analyze it, even take it for just for analyze or marketing. Nobody can touch it. So it's very important because it's very different from if you use Amazon Web Services. I think it is a very good service, but for privacy and RPGD, it's not so good.
Okay, great. Eric, I have a couple of there's a couple of questions. Not sure. We just I want to read it. I'll read it out, and then we see who of us will answer it. Okay. Okay. So there's a question about Bitcoin. Why has Bitcoin gained and lost its value in an exponential manner, and what is the future? I would love to know what the answer is, because you know I can adjust my investments based on the answer. So if you have the answer, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, same thing. I will be a millionaire if I know.
No, on a serious matter, I mean, Bitcoin, you know, is really at this point the use cases for Bitcoin, really most of the Bitcoin transactions are purely speculative. That is, people buy and sell it as an investment and not for any other purpose. And so the ideal future for Bitcoin is that it becomes some kind of quasi-currency or digital gold or some store of value that people agree on. And I think, you know, at that point, really, you know, the value of Bitcoin will become more meaningful. Right now, the value of Bitcoin is again, it's just purely speculative, and it's like the you know, it is the it's a question of the, you know, the value of a painting, right? A painting is worth as much as you were willing to pay for it, you know, because you know, something may be a Rothko masterpiece to me, but it made to my mother, it was just a bunch of squiggles on a piece of canvas, and she would never understand why people would pay a lot of money for a red canvas with a yellow stripe on it, right? And so, so I think Bitcoin is still in that stage. That is, you know, it is speculative, and the value of Bitcoin right now is based really on the fact that it has a finite number of supplies. That is, the maximum number of Bitcoin currently under the Bitcoin blockchain is 21 million. So there can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. And so, you know, one of the reasons why people think it's a good investment is because you know, it is limited. Is limited as a limited resource that may at some point may become a good currency. And you know, that's really the value behind it. That's why I think why the value goes up and down. It's because, you know, like the tulip bulbs back in the 16th century in the Netherlands, people are buying and selling it only because they think they can make money of buying and selling it, not because they themselves are inherently incredibly valuable.
Exactly, and also because Bitcoin also, it is the most miners in the world are using Bitcoin. It's more than over 1 million miners in the world. Compared to Ethereum, I think it's 200,000, and the other one, it's less than 100,000 miners. So it's more secure because when you have 2 million people who get the proof, it's better than 100,000. This is also the way. And also because it's very secure, because this is the oldest blockchain currency and technology. It's a Bitcoin because it's 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And they never be hacked as now. I don't know tomorrow, but as now, and it's very secure. So you cannot use a smart contract, as Anthony said, into blockchain because it's an old-fashioned way. But as Anthony said, smart and contract, maybe it's not the right word for lawyers.
So when we could talk about Bitcoin for a long time, but that really, again, I don't think that's going to be the most important use in the future. So we'll move on to the next question, which I think is very interesting. And Eric, I think you may have some insight in it. What if someone records something on a blockchain that is information that person shouldn't have? It belongs to someone else, or you shouldn't retain it for regulatory reasons, and now it's on the blockchain and it's frozen.
So, but you know, in copyright, for example, because it's a Berne Convention who dictated that if you are the first to get a certain date, you are the creator. This is how it works. Mm-hmm. So even if you are a luxury brand and you have someone who steals your models before you copyright it, it's in the end of the counterfeiting, because he's the first guys who have a certain date. After, you can show how you make it and you can explain to a judge, but in front of a jurisdiction without any other proof, it is a certain dates who give you the right to be the owner of the models.
Yes, and from a legal perspective, on some other, like, let's say for instance somebody does something on purpose. Let's say for instance, you know, they have some personal information of yours that you don't want to come out. You know, for instance, some of the, like Bitcoin, the Bitcoin chain itself actually has a small field where you can put in information into it if you wanted to. And so somebody could take your information and put it into this field and then, you know, put into a Bitcoin transaction and presumably then this would be publicly available and it would be there. I don't know if there's any way that you could have that information deleted. There is nobody in a decentralized blockchain that you know, there's no way, nobody who can undo this information for you. So you know, there may be some, you know, obviously if you could find out who did this, and by the way, we'll address this in the next question about anonymity. Then you may be able to go after this person and get damages, etc. But it may not be possible to erase some information that's on a public blockchain.
No, it's not possible to remove anything. But the way it is in France, for example, if you use blockchain for non-authorized things, it's criminal. So even if it's blockchain, if you blockchain something for sexual children or drugs or any terrorist things, it's criminal, even if it's a blockchain. So the only thing it's because it's a blockchain, maybe nobody knows who put this information into the blockchain, but this is the only things.
Which leads us to the next question, and it says, anonymity is the major criticism against blockchain, that it can be used for terrorist finance. How will we regulate it? So do you want to talk about pseudonymity, Eric, about, you know, the fact that it's really not as anonymous as people think?
Yeah, because you have to, because for financing terrorists, yes, you have the Bitcoin, you have the Ethereum, but it's not, it's like a cryptocurrency. So it's a problem for the cryptocurrency, not for the blockchain. So we have to just to split blockchain and cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency you can use as you can use dollar or franc or euros or yen, and it's a currency. But anonymity is not for the blockchain. Because in the blockchain, if used for the case, there is no possibility to finance anything. But if you use Bitcoin as a currency, you can finance it. But you know, even if you want to use the drug dealers, they use only they use everything. So Bitcoin, they use counterfeiting also for terrorist things. So, you know, they have a lot of tools. So not only the blockchain.
Yeah, and then again, it all depends. Again, this is again we keep talking about cryptocurrency, which is again makes my argument about how this is the dog that tail that wags the dog, because that's what everybody's thinking about. But even on cryptocurrency, many of the cryptocurrencies are actually not anonymous. For instance, Bitcoin, the term that's used is pseudonymous because, as we discussed before, Bitcoin records transactions and it's publicly available. So you can actually see where every Bitcoin was at any given time. The difficulty is that the way Bitcoin is held is it's held in an electronic format in what's called a wallet, an electronic wallet. And so you can see which wallet holds the Bitcoin, but you don't know who owns the wallet. But if you are, if you have the capability of finding things out like that, then you can put those two pieces together. To give you an example, the United States government, our Internal Revenue Service, which is our taxing authority, was worried that people were using Bitcoin to do transactions without recording their taxes. So what they did is they served a subpoena to Coinbase, which is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the United States, and said, please give me the name and the wallet address of everybody in your system. And so, you know, basically they ended up settling. They only gave them the names of anybody over $20,000. But basically, you know, once you know the name that goes with the wallet address, you can put those two pieces together and it's very easy, right? For instance, there was a case in England where somebody used Bitcoin for criminal purposes, that I think it was blackmail or may have been kidnapping, I forgot, but it was some form of extortion. They wanted to be paid, you know, like it's often happened, the criminals got paid in Bitcoin. The person who paid this extortion fee actually was able to trace them to trace those Bitcoins to an exchange in the UK, and got a court to order that these Bitcoin can no longer be moved, right? So you know, it is not as anonymous as you would think. As a matter of fact, my joke is always, if you want to be anonymous, use US dollars, the actual currency, right? And because nobody can trace a $20 bill, but your Bitcoin can actually be traced. Next question is about, it says, I'm concerned and intrigued by the level of uncertainty and the differences between jurisdictions when it comes to enforceability. Is there no uniform legislation internationally? There are, I think, a number of possible avenues. Obviously, as Eric already talked about, the Berne Convention, which will allow you to use blockchain certificates. But as to enforceability of signatures, it is a question, and to the extent that there are some international treaties out there, not every country is party of that. So I think a part of what you're facing when you deal with blockchain is that it's very new, and you're going to have to convince your local courts that whether or not some of those international treaties are applicable.
Yeah, and also you have in US you have 18 states now we recognize as a legal proof the blockchain, and most in Europe now you have only three countries. Because of the COVID, we just lose time. But I think next year, on the 25 European countries, you have most they accepted as a legal proof the blockchain. So I think it will be international in a few years, and it will be very easy. But the most is in China now. If you use internet tribunal in China, they recognize any blockchain evidence for legal proof. So it's very easy. So in China, there are a lot of counterfeiting action. So for a luxury brand, it's a new possibility to acting against counterfeiter in China.
Yeah. The next question is, apart from luxury brands and counterfeits and R&D know-how, what are the main areas where the blockchain platforms are being successfully developed, and which countries offer stronger enforceability? So to me, Eric, I mean, one of the prime, I think, targets for blockchain applications really is for the financial markets, financial industry, because again, it's just a different way of recording your transaction, and it's just making it, it is a cheaper, I think ultimately the cheap alternative. And so, I think there will be a number of applications in the financial world. I know that in the United States, many basically every large financial company is working on some kind of blockchain solution that they will implement. So I think you will see it there. As to which countries offer strong enforceability, again, my focus is mostly in the United States. But my guess would be is that those countries with a more developed or stronger developed commercial system of laws and jurisdiction and courts probably will offer you the best enforceability.
And I have a case, for example, here we developed with DOCUCERT. It's now we offer since a few weeks for a big accounting company. We offer, in France, I know you have this in US, we have like an annual assembly for all the shareholders. And now we provide a system for digital platform, and they use blockchain to be sure when you receive the documents, and we know the acknowledge, we provide the acknowledge as a blockchain, and also all the documents sending into the platform to the shareholders are blockchain, so nobody can change it. So it's very important when you send financial reports or any confidential files, you want to be sure that people who use are authorized and allowed to see it. So with the blockchain, it's a possibility. Also in France, in 2 years now, we have the obligation for any invoice. It's because we have a VAT, in France, and there is a lot of fraud about VAT because it's 20% of an invoice. So it's a large amount of money all over in France. So there is a lot of fraud, and because of that, now they want to say to the companies to sign digitally all the invoice. So now we provide for them, and we work on a new development for an automatic hash code of each invoice to be sure that the original invoice was sending to the client, it is cannot be changed. and can be controlled by the IRS or any organization in a social organization in France. So this is also a new way for a blockchain.
Here's a question that's specifically for you, Eric. Can bailiff certificates be apostilled in France in order to have them considered as public documents under the Hague Convention? If so, can this apostillation process be electronically integrated into the certificate?
Yeah, with a bailiff certificate, you don't need to be apostillated, because apostillated it's a state certificate, okay? And when you are a bailiff in France, you have the same level of the apostille, so you don't need to. We provide directly certificate to client, and they don't need to apostille it. So it's not using. So we just deliver certificate, because three things. One, when you open the account, you made the bailiff made the KYC, so we know what is the customer. And when you send any document into the blockchain, it's through the server of the bailiff. So the bailiff knows who is the guys who send to the hash code. So from blockchain, it's not anonymous, but because you are upload your files into the platform of the bailiff, the bailiff know you. So because he know you, you are protected by these things. And this is why it's very interesting, because as a bailiff, and because we are under confidentiality and we keep secret, we send for you through the hash code, and when we return, we deliver a certificate, because we know that when the certificate come back, when the hash code come back from the blockchain, we can do the link between you, the hash code, and the owner of the files.
Okay, I think that it's 12, so I think that is our time is up. We have a couple more questions, or one question I think that we haven't answered on the in the video, and it is whether profits from cryptocurrency transactions are taxable. In the United States, they are, because they're considered, cryptocurrency is considered property. So every time you buy and sell it, it's like buying and selling a painting or a chair or whatever else. So if you have a gain, then you have to pay tax on it. So, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why in the United States, the adoption of cryptocurrency, will probably lag behind many other places, because if you have to, keep track of every time you pay something with Bitcoin, and at the end of the year, you have to like tally up whether you have a capital gain or capital loss. That's just not practical.
Yeah.
Eric, I think that is it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It was exciting to talk to you again. Feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from everybody, particularly, said if you are interested in blockchain in other jurisdictions. It's great for us to talk about these things so we can help develop this developing area of law.
Okay, and thank you very much for to be here with us, with Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, for all your speech. It was very interesting, and I'm very happy also to work with Colette and to all the webinar we made together.
Yeah, same thing, Eric. It was a very great presentation. I don't take any offense about the fact that you wanted to highlight that your servers are not subject to U.S. jurisdiction, because I know this can be a very big thing. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Right, great. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.